Morning, everybody. I'm Ford Spalding, Chair of the FS1 Steering Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First, Chair, the FS1, welcome to all. I grant permission to Allison McCarthy and anyone else who wishes to record the meeting. Is there anyone else that does wish to record the meeting? This meeting is held on a hybrid format. I'll do a roll call of members. Jody Petroselli.
Here.
Ken Ayers. Here. Peter Bean. Sarah Cantley.
Here.
John Cummings.
Here.
Harry Davis.
Here.
Paul DeLay.
Here.
Nancy James.
Here.
And I'm Ford Spalding. Thank you. Also with us is Connor Reed, Molly Fitzpatrick, Mike Perkins, Steve Lund, Colin McCarthy, and anyone else I've missed?
Nora.
Nora has just walked in. I'm gonna do our updates first. And I want to welcome to the town administrator Connor Reed to our meeting. I first met Connor when I was part of a committee to recommend finalists to the Board of Selectmen. But I'd heard about him before because the current town administrator in Dover used to work for you. So, Michael Blanchard. So welcome, and you might want to introduce yourself to the committee formally. And I'd be interested in if you just tell a little bit about maybe the process you went through for the fire station, DPW, and police division.
Sure. Thank you, Ford. My name is Connor Reed, your town administrator for 6 days now. So excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and very nice of you to give me a seat at the table. So as Ford alluded to, I have a pretty good amount of experience with facilities planning and construction on the municipal side. In Easton, we similarly had a door and rear master facilities needs assessment study. Ours was performed in 2014, and we incorporated that into our 5-year capital planning and a long-term kind of strategic planning, and how we structured and planned and sequenced numerous debt exclusions. First, to replace all of our elementary schools, which we did in 2019, and then the next project, which was to replace all police, fire, and public works facilities under one consolidated project. So like most municipalities in Massachusetts, our police, fire, public works facilities are in pretty rough shape. In my opinion, I've gone around the state talking about the subject. That's not because citizens don't care about those services. It's because the incentive structures are leaning heavily towards public schools, not because schools did something wrong, but because the MSBA exists, right? It's a very rational thing for communities that don't have unlimited resources, that there's a state grant body that's going to match and put money on the table for a certain capital project, that you're going to prioritize those. And so that's what most communities do. And so there's a lot of really tired, really stressed police, fire, and public works facilities around the state. So we approached that project. We have something similar, it sounds, to a permanent building committee. They're a citizen committee that works on our municipal building planning. The public works director is involved, superintendent. There's representation from the town and school to make sure that we're trying to have as coherent of a 5, 10, 15-year plan as we can. And we got meeting a feasibility appropriation for police, fire, and public works in 2021, where we were just breaking ground on the elementary school and did a 2-year process leading to a debt exclusion vote and a town meeting appropriation, where we were fortunately successful to get that consolidated project approved. And that's about 50 to 60% of the way through construction back in Easton now. It's going well. And it was a very, I suppose, thorough process. We did an enormous amount of public outreach, which is really important. And we're fortunate enough for it to pass narrowly, admittedly. Not here to tell anyone it was a 90-10. It was not. It's very close. Because for a municipal project, as everyone in here knows, because there's no state money typically on the table, that really puts your taxpayers in a situation where it's really can be challenging. which makes all of your jobs challenging. So I'll stop monologuing here by closing to say thank you to all of you for being on this committee, because having residents involved is really important. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Connor. I thought it was important that we all heard that because, you know, what we're up to, and he's already been through it in part. I think, I know you'll be helpful to Molly and ourselves on this project. So thank you. We received recently, and I circulated, I believe, to you all, the correspondence from Brian Hack at 27 Saxon Avenue. And I thought it'd be worth mentioning because I thought it was a very good email and I thought it was very a good suggestion. And he suggested that we take a look at FS2, what I'm calling FS2, I don't know if Needham does, at 707 Highland Street. It's a substation, as a lot of you know, on a piece of property that's very similar to ours. And he suggested we might want to see it. I am familiar with it. I'm not sure that's something we all need to do because it does resemble FS2, but I thought I'd ask Colin, Assistant Chief Colin McCarthy, just to make a comment on it as it compares to FS1 and the need for FS1.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so Needham's Fire Station 2 is similar to our Fire Station 2, that it is a substation, as you stated. It's simply, I believe they run an engine company and an ambulance out of that station, much like we hope to do someday at our Station 2 as well. But what we're looking to build here is our headquarters, which incorporates all our administrative personnel as well as our operational personnel. We also keep a larger staffing level at Station 1. So where we keep the 3 people at our substation, we'll have the 7 at our Station 1, up to 7 at our Station 1, plus administrative staff. So we're looking at really headquarters. The one comparison to their Station 2, to our current station, is the grade, the slope at that station, and they do have a mechanics bay there as well, which we're trying to incorporate into our project as well. So that's what I would say.
Thank you, Colin. I thought that'd be helpful if you all do want to go see FS2 over there. I'm sure Colin can help you do that.
So I have just a quick question. They don't have drive-through bays though. Do they have bays on the bottom?
They do have bays in the bottom. Yes.
They drive out of those? Or you might not
Not
know
the
that.
response. No, they
Okay.
have bays for accessory vehicles, I would call them, like their extra shift commander vehicle or perhaps a pickup truck, kind of like what we have. But they're much smaller bays, not something you could fit a fire truck in.
Okay, because I drove by there the other day and I saw that they have 3. And that's far shorter than we would need.
Right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Third thing I wanted to mention is on January 29th, I think all of you were there. We had a community forum, which I thought was a good start. Our next one is February 26th at 7 p.m. However, I think we need to continue to work hard to find ways to increase greater resident interest and participation in finding a way to get to yes, because that's what we really all have to do. I've asked Harry and Nancy if they would take a lead on the communication piece. We all are going to help. We're not going to do it alone. But I think, you know, my experience and where I've worked before is we have to do everything. There's really nothing, we can't say no to anything, we have to do everything. And that's gonna include social media, Westwood Minute, Instagram, email campaigns, website, text, anything that we can think of to try to reach out to the people to get them engaged, get them knowledgeable of what we're gonna do is absolutely key. Finally, I neglected to do this at the last meeting. I asked you all to watch the Westwood 2025 Housing Production Plan, which I thought was extremely well done and very helpful. And you can find it again on the January 5, 26, the town website of the Selectmen's meeting if you wish. What it told me is our population is projected to grow. In 2025, it was 16,857, according to the numbers that they gave us. They're projecting in 2035, 20,080, and in 2045, 23,009, almost 24,000 people. That has a huge bearing on what we're doing because it's obviously more people, it's going to be multiple family dwellings probably. That puts a greater demand on calls from the fire department. So when we think about the programmatic needs, which I think are guiding our whole process of design eventually, is we have to remember that decreasing the space is going to be more detrimental than increasing the space, or at least increasing the opportunities for space. So I wanted to mention that. And hopefully everybody who's on the call or follows it later on will sort of take a look at that report. I think it's an important report. Any comments on anything I've said, anything you want to add to it?
Just have a quick addition, no surprise. I thought it was interesting, the housing production plan and this Long Range Financial Plan that we have, and the company can speak to us. The demographic, right, the composition of the elderly population is increasing, and that will place a strain for demand.
Anything else?
Can we maybe set up a meeting with whoever is the appropriate person in the town at some point to talk about the town's general social media and what, if any, access we have to that, and that we can piggyback off of it and maybe use it to get more information out about what we're doing? I don't know if the town has its own Instagram site. I know they have their own website, but it seems to be that, we should be utilizing those resources.
Sure.
Great.
Anything else?
It was interesting at the community meeting, the only people that were here, aside from board members and the select board was here, was just the two neighborhoods that were here. The proposed one by the YMCA property and FS1.
So glad they're engaged, but we need to get.
Yeah, but we need to get out of that. Doesn't affect directly.
Correct.
So I think we put a proposal out there, we'll have one in every neighborhood, and that'll get people to show up.
Oh.
All right, let's move on. For new business, there are three subjects: the FS1 site considerations, programmatic considerations, which I believe go hand in hand, and the FS1 short-term site building options. So why don't we go to the site considerations, because I think that's what we need to solve first, or come up with opinion on first. We sent out a chart that you have that was filled out as a demonstration piece. But what I also want to give out to you is a clean one, so, which might help in our deliberations. And I think all of you have started the process, so we can see if we can come to a conclusion on what to do. Unfortunately, when I graded this, I graded because I've been focused on the Olympics. I had best was 1 and worst was 5. I think we need to reverse that when we go through this. I'm watching too much of the Olympics, so I think first place is better. So I think probably the place to start is, let's start right at the top and grade it 1 through 5, and let's reverse it. 5 is best, 1 is worst.
Okay.
Okay? So,
Same color scheme.
Green is
what?
Green is best.
No, we'll reverse the colors.
I felt like green,
Green will be 5,
Yes, so
Oh, okay.
the colors will be reversed.
so green does not mean go.
okay? So, I did that this morning, so that's why it happened. We have all the options, all 8 options that we've looked at. We've actually looked at more than 8. As I told you, a couple of weeks ago, I went and visited a neighbor of ours on High Street who offered his property as consideration, but I reported last time, it really, I and he decided it really wasn't appropriate. So we have talked about other options also. So let's focus on these. I tend to think when I'm looking at it, and jump in if you think I'm crazy, I think we have 3 main options, and I'm not really sure that we need to grade the other ones, but I'm open to doing that if people want to do that. So the first is require access to High Street. 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. I don't know how to do this. Go around the table and let people
So when we're grading require access to High Street, we're grading it based on how much work needs to be done to get the access to High Street? Like, for instance, I'm looking at what you filled in for existing 637 High Street. Require access to High Street? No, because it already has it, right?
Right,
So if we look at the Deerfield School, it requires some access to High Street.
correct.
So
So that wouldn't be a 1, I would think that would be something like a 2 or a 3.
so how difficult is it to get the access to High Street?
Right.
Okay, I just.
Is it time and expense? Because time is,
Well, it's gonna be time, it's gonna be expense, and, but time is a big one, and how are we gonna gain that?
how would we branch it out into a timeline and then an expense line?
I don't think we need to do that at this point.
Yeah, I
Yeah, but down-
let's keep it pretty,
So I just want to clarify, so like, because the FS1, currently 637 High Street, that's already on 109, so that would be a 5.
that would be a 5.
Okay.
So I think we could say that's a 5. You go to Deerfield. Right now, I would say that's a 4 or a 3. What does everybody think?
I'd say it's a 3. But I mean,
3?
I'd like to hear if it's even possible from, building inspector Mike Burns. All right, so
The access to High Street? It would
from the
be,
Deerfield, like, could you put an access here, if we change the entrance to the library, could you put an access over here?
I mean. Okay, is anything's possible, just takes time and money. I don't know how you would put the entrance to the library over there, that would be. Fairly expensive, and disruptive to the layout and the activities in the library. I mean, you could put an access road through there, but I think it would include relocating. The majority of the parking, the front access, and. I would have to see that. How services are laid out as far as. Fire department connections, where the alarm panels are located, things like that, as far as if you can just put a door on that side of the building and say this is the entrance now, or if it requires. And I think it would a fair amount of renovations to the library to accomplish. I don't.
And I'm just thinking about temp bombs, was how, what was the plan for them, for the,
Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry. Just thinking about the temporary operations.
Yeah.
So what was the plan for response? I guess,
As far as when it was temp ops at the.
at the American
or
Legion.
Legion.
Yep, that's,
It was some way, shape or form. Addressing the drive aisle at the police station, either. Doing something with, either traffic flow, controls with the light at Westwood Glen and 109. Possibly it was discussed, I mean, it can go. Really far down the road about possibly creating a one-way or access road only coming from the temp ops at the Legion to the Westwood Glen intersection with the back of Deerfield behind the police station, but there would definitely have to be something out with the light controls, because that turn is not wide enough to accommodate both the fire engine leaving on call and a vehicle coming up Westwood Glen Road from 109. So there would have to be some sort of temporary signalization at that intersection.
Because it's possible, we have to explore that, and I think that's, what we would have to ask the town meeting for, wanting to do that. I would say, board would say there should be a 3.
The other thing is, that was for the temp ops, if that was a 2+ year situation, it's something that you could live with as a temporary solution. I would say as a permanent solution, that would not be viable. There would either have to be some sort of other access, like we've talked about, trying to expand the pathway that comes through from Deerfield out to 109, or doing something with reconfiguring the geometry of the back parking lot at Town Hall behind, or at the police station Town Hall corner at Westwood Glen, to make that a more accessible access road for the department. There would also have to be some sort of permanent signalization changes at 109 and Westwood Glen associated with that.
and the other option is taking land on the other side of the library to build a separate access road which Molly, if I understand, the property owners of those pieces of land aren't remotely interested in.
We have not approached it.
Yeah, I think the discussion that was had early on was the existing cut through that goes through the woods there. Trying to expand that one side or the other. One side does have some wetlands area on it, so it'd be much more advantageous to go to the other side of that. And that would be really the, I don't want to say the most painless way, but that is the straightest route if you're gonna put a station back there, is to just get out to 109 that way. Then you would have, similar to the emergency signal that's in front of the existing station in that location to stop traffic on 109 when a vehicle's coming out.
Okay, so just to summarize, to explore that option at Deerfield to get the access road, it would require changes to the library parking lot, changes to the access road itself, renovation changes to the library itself, at a minimum.
Possibly, if we're gonna talk about coming through the parking lot out here, through the library, I would say, yes, that would be the bulk of
Okay.
of the requirements for making this an access road through the library parking lot.
Doesn't the Colburn, don't they have?
They have access
Right, so-
easements to there. I think there's an opportunity to make it work with the existing, I mean, I don't want to say right of way, but with the easement lines as they are, to be able to get traffic coming out through that area, I think it would be a little bit more difficult to have the trucks responding or returning back to the station, go through that.
Because there are opportunities, I'm trying to get a number on here so we can go on. I think, I'll put it right in the middle of the three and hopefully we can pursue that at another time.
Okay.
Does everybody agree?
Deerfield 3.
Yeah.
And you're looking at,
Quick
Go ahead.
question. Thanks. The current pathway from Deerfield to 109, is that wide enough currently to accommodate some of the largest trucks on a one-way situation?
No. The walking path.
I think that's what someone described at the community forum as a fire access path, and I walked into FS1 one day, I'm just curious.
I don't think you could fit a golf cart.
I think
They said. It's not-
I think it's a 10-foot wide right of way easement access, but I don't think you're fitting much of a vehicle back there right now.
okay,
All right.
so let's move over to Starbucks, the land behind Starbucks, number for that. Again, we need to gain access, and that's a process that you have to go through. We don't have access at that point now. That's something that would have to be pursued if we're gonna use that. Because it's a possibility, I'm gonna throw it out as a 3.
Yeah, I think they're both equal.
They're both equal.
Yeah, okay.
And if I don't hear from you online, you gotta
Yeah.
speak up and you disagree.
My only question between the Deerfield and the Starbucks is, are we talking about more land-owned property with Deerfield than with Starbucks? Like, is there more hoops to go through for the Starbucks one because you're primarily talking for access, commercial and residential property versus with Deerfield, we're already looking at, I don't know what percentage is town-owned.
I had the same question there.
Yeah, Paul, I would tend to agree that it may be less, but we just don't know because we haven't pursued it at this stage. And once we start pursuing it and get a willing seller to a willing buyer, I think I'd keep them both the same.
Okay.
Next would be multiple rounds of town meetings. I don't know what multiple is. That'd be more than one. We're definitely gonna need 2 anyway. And does it go on to 3? I would say those 3 are pretty equal. When I think about it, in terms of having to go to the town. Obviously, you're not gonna go to the town until you have a willing seller, willing buyer, but.
I think the current site might not require multiple. I think the current site is just a.
Current site is there.
Right, so that's why I think that makes more.
And this also says requires approval of purchase. Clearly, we don't require any approval.
Right. So I would say the current one is a 5. And The others would be, again, a 3?
Well, there's one more town meeting that we have to go through for those two, right? It would be either approval to purchase the property, purchase it, or take it by eminent domain. So it's one more town meeting in the process.
But you definitely need a town meeting to get the funds to go ahead and study the land to whether it's even buildable or gonna be appropriate to use. So I think it's an added town meeting,
So
but
it's two more, you're right.
Yeah.
All right, so for,
Do you have something?
No, I was just
Go ahead.
going to suggest that, yes, if you're gonna pivot entirely away from the existing site where you have design plans, you're gonna have kind of feasibility schematic level. Then depending on if you have land takings, whether you sequence that to have land takings authorized at the same time as design development, so yes.
yeah, and we're not gonna take the land, even talk about really taking the land till we know it's buildable and usable, so. Okay, total cost to the town. That's an interesting question because construction cost is one cost. Well, design and construction cost is one, and then buying land is an added cost. And if I was a taxpayer, I'd say that's the total cost is what really counts. I would go throw out and say, well, except maybe the land that you're taking can be used for other opportunities. So by taking that land, there's an additional asset that maybe doesn't lower the cost necessarily, but it spreads it out among programs. So
There is a delta in the construction cost for a 2-level or a 3-level versus like the operation bed, you could put the housing next to it instead of on top.
that's correct. If you use the current site, you're gonna have a configuration similar to what you have now. If you use the other two, you could construct a building that would be 1 story or 1.5 stories or whatever it turns out to be, which is gonna lower the cost than if you needed 2 floors. But I'm not counting when I said that time, and the longer we take in time, the higher the costs go up. You know, that was a decision that was sort of made because public construction does not go down.
So I think it's worth bringing up a broader point here. You know, we think of the situation we're in, right? Like our current design was voted down and there's a lot of reasons for that. But, you know, there's always a segment of the population it's like, oh, it's so expensive, right? And so we're back to the drawing board. I think we're playing with fire a little bit if we're trying to get buy-in, and our answer to anyone when we're pitching 3 different ideas is, well, how much does this cost? And we say, well, we really have no idea until we like get further into the process. I just think that's going to be a non-starter. So again, I understand it's kind of like a broader issue. I don't think we need like a line, you know, itemized list of, you know, this exactly how much it's going to cost. But I think we should have some broad ballpark figure of what these 3 items would cost. Again, if nothing more to promote discussion in the town, right? Like that's an inevitable question that's going to come up around a lot of people. Like, oh, land behind Starbucks, great. How much would this cost compared to the first? Oh, we have no idea. People that, well, you know what I mean? Like, how many are we talking 35 million? Are we talking 80 million? You know, so people are going to want to know that. How we get to that point for some you know broad figures, I don't know, but I think it's worthy of highlighting that.
So that sort of leads me to think maybe we shouldn't even fill in this one, you know, cost is a factor because we don't know.
Yeah,
We don't
so
know
we'd be like, I don't
what the total cost will be.
We don't. I would also say that I think historically as a town, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, we would vote on projects without knowing the final cost. So we almost got too good at projecting. And I'm not saying that for withholding information, but I think in the past we voted on projects without having a final bid.
We would have the estimate
Yes.
from the professionals.
Yeah.
Hoping that would be the same, but like with the Pine Hill, if the world stopped, you know, water, blah, blah, blah. That increased the cost $3 million.
Yeah. But
Just
the only time when you have the cost is, you know, you have estimators and cost estimators, usually in a project, they use 2 cost estimators and, you know, then you can work it out. However, the real cost is when the bid comes in and, you know, the bid, so.
Go ahead.
I picked it.
Harry Davis.
Harry's point is a good one that folks are gonna ask that question, but I think yes, but real cost is a real cost when you get the bid, and then you can split that process. Well, then it's really post change orders and like the real cost when the project is done and everyone's moved in, right? But so at a certain point, in my opinion, as a team, you need to have a high enough degree of confidence to say that it's probably in this rough ballpark. You of course go through, you have the estimators for the designer and for the owner, but you don't even get to that phase. In my opinion, that phase, when you're in schematic feasibility, is usually when you start to get a high degree of confidence. But even then, that's going to require, if you're going, in my view, going down the road of looking at alternative sites, an appropriation of some type to get that work done. So I don't know if Harry, if you were saying that your concern is that if you have to even do that, that's going to be a non-starter, or if you're talking more in time for the full vote approval.
Yeah, I guess the latter. Again, a kind of follow-up question. You said there's cost estimators involved. Like when can those numbers become public to be kicked around in discussion? Like when we get to that point?
Schematic, you got the
Yeah, so
schematic
we
drawing.
did a feasibility, when we were in schematic design, we put out the cost estimate was done in like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and then we went out to bid, so they were put out on a regular basis.
Okay.
So we would do that again, but not until you're at the site, working on the actual schematic design.
So to that point, is there any scenario where we can not get to that, but at least get some numbers a little bit earlier? Again, if nothing more than like the whole goal is to get to yes, right? So if you can bring some of those numbers, even rough ballpark, to the conversation with the community, I think it's gonna, move the process along faster. Because again, someone would be like, I love that idea. I love it at 45 million, not at 75 million or whatever.
I think you have to get it to feasibility, right? So we had done feasibility for the 637 High Street, and that's when we went to special town meeting, right? We said it's gonna be about 40 million.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you have to get through that feasibility part first, which is what I think Connor and Ford are saying, is like, do we go forward at this town meeting for feasibility funds for the Starbucks and the Deerfield?
Understood. So, and sorry if I missed this, but does feasibility not come until we decided on one site, or do you get feasibility for multiple sites?
You could do
You
multiple.
could, you could do both. Yeah, you could have it be a broader scope that, is wider and not as deep, if that makes sense.
Achievements.
What's obvious to me is the building, just a minute, what's obvious to me is the building cost is gonna be X, whatever it's gonna be, depending on how you do it. When you add the cost of land, that's when that's gonna add. So that number is gonna be anywhere from 0 to 2 million or whatever it is dollars. And that's gonna be added on to the cost of building. So if you look at the total cost, you got that. We're not at that stage because we haven't identified the land yet, that it's even buildable. Chief, do you?
Yeah, so speaking on that, the thing that we kept hearing last time was Pine Hill, they had options. And I think you need to do feasibility for a couple sites because people want options. They want to be able to say, we want it this way. It might cost $1 million more, but that's what we want. And I think that's the direction you should go because staying at 637, well, now we have to move 10 blocks, we have to move the IT, we have to do up things that are gonna cost more. Other places, you might have to buy land, so is that a wash? People wanna see those things, and they wanna know they want to have a choice of which option they want.
So for this exercise, I think either we don't fill it in, or you put down cost to build for all three, land acquisition for 2. Just write that down so we know what it is.
So the chief is a very important point, though, is that cost to build you're gonna have a building cost at all 3 sites. You will have potentially land acquisition at 2 of them. You may also have significantly more site and civil drainage work at 2 that you don't necessarily know, but we do know for certain that if it's at the existing site, that there is a unique cost that is not borne on the other 2, which is 10 plots. And that, I believe, is
2.5 million?
significant. So I think that
Which is
It was 2.5 million as part of the original.
Oh, that's interesting.
Temporary ops is part of the $38 million project. 2.5 of that.
If you rebuild where it is, you gotta move them somewhere while you're rebuilding.
and there's
So it could be a wash.
maybe, well, it could be, but I think the chief would, to correct me if I'm wrong, chief, but I believe what the chief's saying is that just that, you can't lose sight of that as part
Yeah,
of
that's good.
a major cost component for the existing site.
So I'm going back trying to fill this out. Do we leave it blank for now? There's something we've already.
So the answer,
You wouldn't?
No, and I would also say if we move from 637 high, there's the offset of, if we sell that to a developer. Right, so there's that, so there's many moving parts in this.
Too many unknowns now
Yeah.
to fill it in.
There are lots of other factors that come into it, like if we build the access road to the land behind Deerfield, that's not just for the benefit of the fire station, that can potentially be used, for other benefits. We've thrown around some other ideas of gaining access to land that the town can use in other ways. But, I mean, it seems to me that we're getting to the same point. We don't need feasibility funds for 637 high, that's been done. We have two, it's not like we have 5 other locations that we're considering. We have 2 other prime locations that we're looking at. And maybe we just get to the point where we do general feasibility funds or ask for general feasibility funds and explore both of them. That's, not a big jump.
Yeah.
Question, she is here, chief. How wide does the fire access road, to get the engines in and out to the fire station, how wide?
Yeah, we've gone 40 feet, right, like,
As far as the.
our access, like if we're having permanent
If
access.
Yeah, if you're having permanent access with two-way traffic coming and going. That's pretty much what we've been saying.
40 feet, and 40 feet?
Can you work with 2 different entrances, one in and one out?
All right, so we're gonna skip costs.
Yeah, just get it.
Yeah, I just want to point out that access roads that
There, that's 20 feet wide on paper.
Next one is,
One side to the house is 7 feet.
Right.
So you'd have to have a buffer of at least 30 feet.
just one more thought. So Molly, as you're taking notes, I think the takeaways here, like, when we talk action items, it's like, how quickly can you get the feasibility studies for these multiple sites?
okay, let's move down to the next one. Require moving of current use. I think I sort of need a definition of that.
And
Bob's.
can the fire station continue to operate? So if it's if you're gonna replace at 637, you have to.
Okay. So given number that, yes, if you build at the current site, they're gonna have to move. So that would be a 1. The other 2 would be, I'm gonna say a 5, but that maybe stretching it 5. Okay,
Is there an item for temporary renovations to the current site so that they can stay there if the option is to move to a different location, or is
That
that?
might mean dipping it down to a 4.
That's what I'm thinking, yes.
so say 4.
Right.
Molly,
While we wouldn't need to move, they'd have to do something to the current site. if They were gonna stay there.
is there an update? Weren't they coming in to do an engineering assessment?
We don't have it yet, but we're waiting. And it's the third action item of this meeting.
Yeah, so, but bringing this, is there a scenario where that they say like they can't be in this building any longer?
Could be, could be.
Forced. that.
That's what we're gonna be talking about in our last agenda item.
So it's possible that of these 3 options, we're paying temporary relocation costs. anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, require purchase of properties. We do not need it for High Street.
So that's the 5.
Yep.
That's a 5, and the others would be a 1.
Starbucks is 1.
Starbucks is a 1.
You're gonna have to take some land. on
Yeah.
The other ones.
But
Three.
probably a lot less, right? For the Deerfield, is that accurate?
Not if we have to buy a property to access the
If you were,
20-foot path, right? It's only 10 feet, they're actually usable. If we cut it back 20, that's not gonna be enough.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to get land from one side of the other.
I think it would be about the same because we only need to buy 40 feet for.
So we give them
I
once.
think it's 1.
All right, all right. Require change of zoning. Oh, yes, wait, no. We don't need it. We don't need it for our current location.
It's been done.
That's a 5.
Wait, actually, I do have a question for that. The settlement from the prior litigation that eliminated the appeal to the zoning variances, is that limited to that building or any building on that site?
Any building on it.
So that's a 5.
So that's almost a sunk cost, right? So we paid that the town paid that out,
Yep, it is a sunk cost.
we wouldn't have to eventually do that again.
Just to, for the changing to the zoning, the fire department or the fire station is allowed in any location in any district.
Mhm.
So you wouldn't have to necessarily change the zoning for a specific parcel. If 637 High Street was no longer a fire department or a fire station, it would revert to the underlying zoning, which currently is residential. There's opportunities to change that zoning designation along with other parcels, depending on what the moving pieces are.
And if it became commercial, same thing.
Is rezoning that to commercial an easy process or is that?
It goes through town meeting.
Okay.
It usually, and in this instance, just because of the location and some of the other things that have been discussed as far as along the 109 High Street corridor.
Yeah.
There's opportunity to kind of bundle that together with additional parcels to try to encourage more growth in the area as far as the commercial and or mixed use. So it's one of those things where you can't spot zone. You can't just say this one parcel is going to be a residential use in the middle of a highway district. You can't just say this is commercial in this district. You have to kind of expand or at least somewhat contiguously have a mixed use or a zoning business district that then is expanded upon or stretched out to encompass one or more properties.
Where does that end right now? The funeral home?
Just, yeah, that's it, yeah.
But Nancy, if I understand what the long range financial planning committee is doing right now, rezoning that property to commercial is consistent with, at least at this point, the preferred plan of further growth and development of that stretch of 105.
It is, because we look at the economic opportunities.
So Mike, is there any zoning or deviations that we need if we build either Deerfield is or the land behind Starbucks? It's big enough, right? We don't have.
They're large enough parcels. It depends on size of the building, where it's located, size of the parking. I mean, the thing that was a couple of the variances that were required for the 637 project as previously designed to encompass building coverage on the lot, because it's a smaller lot. So the percentage of the building coverage was one, the impervious coverage in the parking areas and whatnot, that was another. And then also variances from the required setbacks for parking spaces.
So that would be a requirement for the zoning variances, not for a change to the bylaw.
Okay, so they're the same.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. So I would think that either the Deerfield parcel or the Starbucks parcel, either of those probably wouldn't require those variances. Based on the size of the properties and where it could be located on either of those, you probably wouldn't need any of the setback variances, maybe a height variance just because of the nature of the building, because if you've got, a 22-foot apparatus bay, if you want to put anything on top of that, then you're over the 25-foot maximum allowed in a residential district. So again, that goes with if you rezone the Deerfield parcel or the property behind Starbucks while you're possibly rezoning 637. If you're deciding to not build on 637 anymore, you kind of, let's just say you rezone that as a commercial property and you rezone the land behind Starbucks as a commercial property, that allows you to go higher than the residential.
So that's all residential now?
What's that?
The land behind Starbucks is currently residential zone?
Yes,
And the Deerfield is currently residential zone?
yes.
All right. So maybe they're both fours?
That's what I'm thinking, they'd
Yeah.
be fours.
Right. And again, you don't need to change any of the zoning in order to locate a building there, a fire station there.
But you might run into some construction.
You might run into some of the dimensional requirements.
Let's call it fours.
Yep,
Straight across the board?
544.
544. We have a question up there. Okay, response efficiency.
You guys need it for them?
Same, right?
Any difference between the three locations?
Three locations for response.
So based on our heat maps and our response district over on this side of town, the best location for a fire station will actually be located at St. Margaret Mary's Church. That's the ideal location for our response. That way we get coverage all the way down to Willett Pond, the bottom of Oak Street, out to Brook Street on the Walpole line, and then also to Fox Hill Village or to the highway as well.
That makes that a 5 for Starbucks.
I'll let you decide that, but yes.
Do you all agree to be 5 for Starbucks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can
Now,
I,
does
can
it
I jump in on a
change-
question really quick on terms of the church? I know we had initially talked about that at the very beginning as that being an ideal location. And was outreach done to the church to see if that was a possibility for acquisition? There are a number of Catholic parishes that are consolidating within towns across the state. Because they frankly, I think need some money. So I didn't know what the outreach to that had been and if that had been pursued at all, because there is a parish over on Washington Street.
I looked into it.
My understanding is St. Margaret Mary is already combined with St. Dennis, so it was not. I wasn't in conversations that were talking about it, but I think an initial feeler went out and they said, no, we're already combined. We have no interest in that.
Yeah, St. Margaret Mary is
Hasn't been done recently.
in St. Dennis has become the Joan of Arc parish.
Right.
St. Margaret Mary is in the conversations I had. If there was a church to be sold, it would actually be St. Dennis first. St. Margaret Mary's would be second. So St. Margaret Mary's is sort of the lead Catholic church now in Westwood. And that's the feedback that I received. So it wouldn't help us because St. Dennis would go first.
Okay, thank you.
Between the 3 locations, the Starbucks, the Deerfield, and the current location, is there any difference in response time preference between those 3?
There is. I would say the Starbucks property gets you closest, and then the other 2 are kind of tied to where we need to be.
544?
Does it make a difference that it's set back? And I'm just thinking about access to, like, your current location, you just pull right out. But I don't know how far back, I just don't have a visual representation of how far back it would be and then to drive out.
The only, it would, I mean, you can imagine how long it would take you to get out to. The only difference, the only real consideration there would be you'd have a driveway that you have to compensate for response time on, and then getting out onto 109. How we do it now, kind of like a don't block the box type of thing, those type of issues would have to be addressed.
right.
We would need clear access onto 109 at any location we went to, so just like we do now.
You're not talking adding minutes.
Minutes, no,
Right. I mean,
we're adding seconds.
seconds.
So like a quarter mile in, which is very far, 1 mile.
Right, that's
How far the fire station would be in.
So,
So.
Can
So
I ask a
for-
quick, can I ask a quick question quickly? Does the response time take into consideration the traffic patterns? Because a half a mile on High Street between where Starbucks is and where Deerfield is can take you 10 minutes on a given day.
you don't have like.
Yes, response time is taken into consideration. I mean, but even now, we're dealing with that because in the morning we have traffic going in one direction by our current location. And then in the
Right.
afternoon, it's going a completely different direction. So, yes, I mean.
So if you're
the
going,
closer
but if
we-
you're going east, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the time of day too. But you really could, depending on the direction, it could make a huge difference.
Correct.
So let's do 445.
Yeah, 445.
Lot size, I just throwing this out, I would say Deerfield and Starbucks would be a 5. And you could go, I think it's very detrimental where we are now in terms of the size of what you can do. And when I think about, when we talked about the growth of the town, how are you gonna add on? And one of the things I've thought about is if you have a flat piece of property and let's say you had a 1-story building, you could build it to a certain size for what you need now, but if it's built right, you could, for a future generation or another time, you could expand off of that building. You can't do that at its current site, you're stuck.
I have a question for the chief. So going with expansion, do you have all the apparatus that you need now or are you planning to add, if you need to add apparatus? Or is the apparatus adequate? You need to add personnel? Is your expansion plan?
For the short term, we're fine, with what we have. The long-term plan is to expand. We've shown the heat map down on University Ave. So I think, that would probably be where we'd be targeting. We are talking a decade before we get there.
That'd be another satellite station like the FS2.
So it'd be fair for us to say that for the foreseeable future, the next 10 years or so, as far as apparatus goes, you have what you need.
Yes.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? You have what you need between both stations.
Correct.
Do you have everything you need at FS1?
But it would be preferred to have the squad there. We don't have that. Now.
Where?
The squad at Station 1, but it's at Station 2.
Is that a result of the building being too small?
Yes.
Would that have been remedied in the initial design?
Yes.
So the question is it 4 or a 3?
I think it's at least a 3 and
I think it's a 3.
Okay, I think it should be 1, and I'm not, but
No,
we didn't have enough parking. I'm talking with the new design. We didn't have enough parking. We were gonna have to go through the neighborhood. All the variances you had to get, it's a terrible spot for trying to expand.
And didn't we already talk about this? So it's kind of, not sure if it's directed to lot size, but that topography,
Yeah.
the slope down is terrible for you guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds more like a 1 to me.
1 or 2, sure, I would say.
Okay, so let's put it at 2. 2.
Mhm.
Site purchase cost, well, we don't need to have any cost to purchase down the present site, and the other ones we do. So I would put a 5.
Kind of the same thing.
Is it a repetitive?
Yeah, that looks like the same as
Yeah,
required.
we
for
can strike that.
properties.
So it'd be a 5.
I think
Right.
it's still
Competitive to the.
Well,
Because it's,
oh, it's up there, okay, so we'll just eliminate it,
yeah.
done. Time required
To build.
to get there and build. I'm just not sure.
How long did it take you to go through the process?
Well, from feasibility, which, so on a school project, feasibility 2017 to move in the end of 22, which is extremely fast, but it's 5 years is fast. And on the municipal, we did approvals in the fall of 21 for feasibility, and bids will be occurring throughout this year, so 5.
526,
So,
sorry.
but again, that's every approval passing. That's things breaking in our favor. I can't say it was like all skill. We were fortunate that our school locked in steel prices before you folks did. That was a failure of Westwood. 5 years is aggressive. I think 5 to 7, and there's other folks who have done this. Like I would say 5 to 7 is a reasonable expectation from feasibility approval to move in if you're doing an entirely new approach.
But for the purposes of us scoring, we're comparing the 3.
Well, it depends what you're comparing. for
Right,
this
that's
one.
what I meant.
I don't want to be presumptuous, especially on my very first time meeting all you folks, but I'm assuming you are not going through this exercise to take the exact design
Right.
that was rejected at the current station. Is that right? Okay, so you at minimum are doing a design change there, yes?
Right.
So I don't know.
You say the feasibility.
You say feasibility.
Right.
So,
Maybe
which
6
is
months?
6, yeah, it's about 6, max 12 months out of that. So I think you're marginally faster there, but I would weigh very heavily. If you have the leader of the department currently saying the site is
States.
suboptimal, then that's for you folks to weigh as far as like, does
No.
getting to a C plus 1 year faster, is that better than a B plus or an A minus? So
And the land purchase is, we don't know about the land purchase, whether it's gonna be
another
quick,
thing.
or is it gonna be, is it gonna be a little slow?
We didn't have, outside of the lease we had to negotiate with one party. That's something that could inject years if there's,
What's the worst case scenario, like land acquisition time?
I mean, if it's in court.
If it's in court, years, land court is, you're not getting in there for 24 months.
So,
Even for like critical municipal.
Doesn't matter. Land use paper bond.
And I'd like to be optimistic, this is gonna be a willing seller, or willing buyer, so that's just,
I mean, when you do eminent domain, you take it.
Yes.
So go to,
Yeah.
if you take away the selling part, eminent domain is, I'm gonna pay you the fair market, what I say is the fair market value, you go. And then you dispute it in court after. that.
Correct, yeah, and
So
that's,
eminent
that's why
domain.
it exists in the law for that exact purpose, that when, whether it's a municipality of a state or federal government determine that there's a piece of property, obviously you don't do it willy-nilly, you have to be very sensitive to constitutional due process considerations, but those are all very prescribed and laid out in the law. And, again, I don't want someone watching to say, oh, brand new town administrator came and said, take everyone's property, that's not what I'm saying. But there are processes there that, it depends on if you're taking an approach of doing it through mutual negotiation, it could go slower. You could at a certain point of select board and town meetings discretion, get to a place like we need to move on this, and you could use eminent domain and deal with it.
Okay, so we have,
So that's a town vote.
I mean,
Town meeting needs to authorize eminent domain takings, but town meeting needs to authorize that even if you're going to do it mutually
Yeah.
agreeable.
But my question is, if the town votes, yes, we're gonna do eminent domain. The care, custody, and control for the town becomes right then at that meeting.
No, if town meeting authorizes, and this is my understanding from legal housing council, but the town meeting will authorize the select board to then execute the eminent domain proceedings, but the select board would then, as the chief executive.
Yeah.
carry the board.
But it's a quick process that can't be repealed.
is that a minority vote?
usually land is 2/3.
I think it's
Yeah,
2/3.
maybe 2/3.
Well, so a week later, when the select board says, all right, we're gonna follow through with the town said,
Yes.
that's when we have care, custody, and control. So it's not 2 years from that point with all the legal crap.
And
So in your opinion, Connor, how much risk are we running by going with the Starbucks option? Purely looking at it from the risk of adding time.
It depends what you mean by risk, right? Is it political risk?
The risk of like slowing down the project considerably, like you're running a huge risk by choosing that site because you could lose a lot of time with just the land aspect
I
of
mean,
it.
we've reached out to the property owners, right? We're initiating conversations. That's gonna take a bit of time. You also have to get an appraisal done. You have to have, site work done. You need to have survey work done. I'm like, I know it. I didn't even have to look. So that takes time. I wouldn't say that takes a year, but that takes more time than
But it-
6 months.
And Molly, correct me if I'm wrong, whereas Molly and the team here have already got those wheels moving on trying to start those conversations, those can and will proceed.
Yeah.
Okay.
As we ramp up for the town meeting in May, so you can have both moving
Yes.
at once,
Yeah.
when those conversations are advancing, where some kind of quasi feasibility of these other sites gets authorized hopefully in May, and then in fall, we're a whole lot smarter about what our programmatic options are, what the construction ballpark costs are, what the legal taking, civil site, environmental concerns are, and hopefully put us in a position as a community to start making some good choices.
So I'm gonna suggest that we don't have a lot of information on this. I would treat them all the same.
Right, so
It's gonna be 5, 7, 4, 6, whatever it's gonna be. So we either make them all ones or all twos or
Or
something.
maybe we don't score it right now.
Or don't
Because I think
score it.
it's like.
Score it.
Let's not score it, okay? Lot restrictions.
that translation conservation we were talking.
It's just, it's not size, it's just concentration. Restriction. So I would say 5 would be number 1.
Well,
You say lot restriction, I
Yeah,
would say it's verticalness is a restriction that is suboptimal.
Oh, okay, so
That's how I,
that's what I would, okay.
so I would put that the same as you put the lot size would be a 2. It's just not a great site.
Okay, so
Right.
that's 2.
And what
There's a
level
reason
of,
not going with the one, I mean, even Chief said.
There are two.
Cause you can do it. So
Can do it.
that's where I move it from, and that's a personal preference, right? Like I'm not saying that we should go Molly's way with the highway.
So
And the issue with Deerfield is on one side of the access road is wetlands, so if we were to expand it, we can only go to the other side.
I would call it a restriction, right? Wetlands can be moved, but you're gonna add cost, you're gonna add time, you're gonna add complexities there.
And I think there's multiple spots.
There's different
with
sections of
wetlands.
wetlands.
Yeah.
at Deerfield.
Yeah.
And is there any,
Do what,
Wetlands.
Starbucks too?
that's what I meant, is there any, it's.
I think a resident,
there's a pond
Yeah, the
that's
back.
further back,
Further back.
and that's way back, and I don't think that would be a factor. All right, here we go.
You should just say,
All the answers. There's wetlands in the rear of that property,
Yeah.
the Starbucks YMCA property back there. They are far enough back that you shouldn't have any impact to the wetlands themselves, and you probably have the 100-foot buffer areas up there if you make towards the front of
You
them.
are at that 100 feet?
I'm pretty sure you are. I'm not looking at the GIS right now.
Yeah.
You maybe have, but even if you are in that 100-foot buffer, it's not necessarily something where, yes. It's a no-go. It's just there might be certain restrictions during the construction timeline.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily you can't pave this to make a parking lot because you're within 100 feet of the wetlands. It's during construction, you've got to have extra silt fence up and protections like that and monitoring and whatnot. The Deerfield site, again, those are smaller. The rules are the same for them. You can't replicate, like Molly was saying, you can't say, okay, we're gonna take X amount of square feet, we can replicate this on another property. The other thing about, as far as restriction, I don't know, restrictions, possibly impacts, if you're talking about the Deerfield site itself, depending on where it is, are you impacting fields there? Would be another question. Because then you might be losing one of the fields in the rear if you're gonna be doing at least during construction time, if not permanently while that access road is wide and explored and whatever. And one other thing, just real quick, one other thing I needed to add is when I was talking about before, the restrictions on the height in a residential district, because of the size of both the Deerfield parcels and the YMCA Starbucks land, there's a provision in the zoning bylaw. The further you get away from the lot lines, you can add vertical height. So those you probably wouldn't need a variance, because you're probably, if, let's just say the setback requirement is 20 feet, if you're more than 30 feet, you could go up to 35 feet tall instead of the 25. So just clarification there. If we were to do some sort of training tower, stair tower, or something like that, that might be a different story.
Okay, so if we're looking at that, I would suspect maybe 3 and a 4.
3 for Deerfield, 4 for Starbucks. We know wetlands are impacted in Deerfield and that it's unlikely they will be at Starbucks, but it's possible.
Okay. Temporary operations duration move. Obviously, in the first one, I would say that's an absolute yes, so that'd be the worst, and that'd be a 1.
You wouldn't have to.
And I don't think you would have to for the others. We're saying the building is to be used, we're not analyzing that.
Instruction purposes.
So without any other information, I think those would be 5s.
Well, I think we have to factor in what.
I would say you may want to hold on that one, just
You
because
could-
you don't have all the information until you have.
So that engineering study.
That just changes the equation, but for the construction part, we don't need to have temporary quarters.
Right.
And the other two parts, so those are 5.
Yeah, unless the study came in and said you had to get out.
Which takes that out of the equation.
So I would keep those 1 and 2 5s.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's it.
all right.
That
Um,
was easy.
Now, that was good. That was efficient.
We need to end the meeting at 11:30. 11:20. We still have other subjects to go through. So I don't know how long a discussion this will be. Can you all meet next Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Monday's a holiday. Could you do a Zoom meeting?
Probably not. I could. Vacation. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
vacation.
Same for me.
Go vacation.
I mean, don't hold up the committee for me if everyone else can.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate to not have.
Well, Sarah can't do it either.
What
Yeah,
about how
the
you
kids are
guys
off
up
next
there?
week.
Paul, can you do it? Or are you
I can
away
do it.
to-
Yeah, no, I can do it.
Peter, you can do it? And Sarah, you cannot.
Correct.
And you couldn't do a Zoom.
Don't think I can, unfortunately.
Do Friday. That's fine. We have Long Reach at 9, but I could do it later.
Oh, I'm confused.
I think the question
It says,
is.
yeah, if you
extent
want
if
the
the
board.
vacation is gonna be an impact on too many members, then what about this Friday?
Friday, the 20th,
No, Friday, the 13th.
It's Friday.
Friday, the 13th.
Of this Friday. Oh,
Can't have a small procedure done, but again, I think you're right.
Can anybody else, is there anybody else to know for Friday, the 13th, this Friday?
I can't do Friday at 10, no.
Monday the 23rd, after school vacation.
We already had that one scheduled, so it was
It's,
just.
it's, I think, for correct me if I'm wrong, the goal there is just because you're not gonna have time to get through the rest of your agenda and a lot of stuff's gonna have to start moving fast.
Yeah.
Not to stress you out.
I agree. I mean, I think someone raised this possibility of like meeting more frequently.
That's why we have so many people on the committee.
Can we try for Friday at like 11?
Or the Tuesday option. I mean, if Sarah and I can't make committees here, I
could-
Yeah.
It's possible I can make a Zoom. I can't.
Okay.
I can do Friday. I can do Friday at like 11 or a little bit later.
So we're hearing Friday.
I'm not here on Friday, so if we're gonna make it around my schedule as the center of the universe, I think we should. do it.
I
agree with Harry. If I could, yeah, I'm with Harry. I could try to make a Zoom on Tuesday, possibly better than Friday.
We do 11:30 on Tuesday. For those who can do Tuesday, does 11:30 work?
No, we have to do earlier.
What about earlier?
9 o'clock? Oh, that's the
That's
library is not open until 10.
Can we just do a Zoom? Just to, since it's a meeting that we're having,
Could do a Zoom,
so just make it easier for everybody.
Let's do that.
do a Zoom at
I have a work meeting on 12 to 1.
9.
Tuesday the 17th at 9.
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay, there will be a meeting next Tuesday at 9 a.m. All remote. Thank you. In which case, I think we ought to call for a motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Minutes?
Oh, excuse me, public and press. Please keep your comments to approximately 2 minutes and understand that we will respond to the next meeting in more detail. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Could you come up and just your name and address?
A quick question, so don't worry, I'm not gonna extend your meeting. Kathy Wallace, 283 Farm Lane. I watched the community forum on Zoom, so I'm aware of what transpired. It seemed as though there were only 2 neighborhoods represented. The abutters, a few people from the abutting neighborhood of the existing site, and Starbucks. Were the Deerfield residents contacted as abutters of a potential site? Because I was surprised no one was here.
For the purposes of this meeting, which was a conversation,
Yeah.
and we are online, we can send letters to anyone. We assume that they follow our meetings and we're there, so I don't know, because I don't know where everybody lives, if there was any abutters from Deerfield.
Okay, because I think that would be important to get them in the conversation to see what their appetite and what the temperature is for the location, because we could find ourselves with objecting abutters again. Okay,
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? If not, our next meeting is this coming next Tuesday at 9 a.m. and I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I would like to make a motion about the meeting minutes that were posted.
That's a great idea. Let's do the minutes. Approval of minutes for January 26th.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes from January 26th.
For a second. Any discussion? If not, I'll poll the board. Jody Petroselli,
Yes.
Ken Ayers,
Yes.
Peter Bean,
Yes.
Sarah Cantley,
Yes.
John Cummings,
Yes.
Harry Davis,
Yes.
Paul Delay,
Yes.
Nancy James,
Yes.
Forrest Spalding, I'm a yes. I'll make a motion for the minutes of January 29. Second,
Do we have those? Oh,
Yeah.
community meeting, that one?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from the 29th community meeting.
and there's a second. Any discussion?
Second.
I'll poll the board. Jody Petroselli,
Yes.
Ken Ayers,
Yes.
Peter Bean,
Yes.
Sarah Cantley,
Yes.
John Cummings,
Yes.
Harry Davis,
Yes.
Paul Delay,
Yes.
Nancy James,
Yes.
and I, Ford Spalding. I'll now, thank you for that, John. I'll now accept the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Bob's making a motion, but adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Poll the board. Jody Petroselli,
Yes.
Ken Ayers, Peter Bean,
Yes.
Sarah Cantley,
Yes.
John Cummings,
Yes.
Harry Davis,
Yes.
Paul Delay,
Yes.
Nancy James,
Yes.
and I, Ford Spalding. Thank you very much.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Thank you.
You-